Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Joel Bayer here, back with Rio Ferdinand and Stephen Howson. Stephen, where were you yesterday?
You lot recorded too late for me, so I had to dip.
Oh
Mate,
man,
well, we had to
we
bring in
miss you,
a
man.
quick
We
favor
miss you.
from Harry Pinero. He's coming back on the channel as well, guys. We did another segment with him, so make sure you look out for that. But this right here is the January transfer window 2023. We've got a couple special guests coming on today. We've got David Ornstein scheduled to come on at some point to give us the news. So please make sure you keep smashing that like button and get the comments engaging. Rio, I want to start off with you, right? Transfer deadline day. As a player, were you ever excited when there's new man coming into the club? Like, what was the feeling about? How did it sit with you when you were at United?
I had David Gill, the CEO at the time, and the manager on speed dial. I was ringing David Gill for fun. I was pestering the manager in the canteen, walking out to training. Any moment I got, if I saw a sniff of anyone in the papers, I was on to him. I said, "Listen, are we getting him? Is he like when we was all there was big massive talk about getting Ronaldinho?" I was asking the manager every single day, "Gaffer, when's he coming? Are we getting him? Are we getting him?" So that's what the players are like. The players are the true reflection of the fans of the players. We're exactly the same. We're all fans. We all want the best players coming to our club. We all want important players coming to our club, players that are going to enhance what we have already, give us a chance of either staying up or winning or getting into Europe, etc. So the players are like the fans in that sense, and they'll be sitting there scrolling media all day long, trying to see who's going to be coming in and out of their club.
I only remember 3 deadline signings while you was here. One being Wayne Rooney. Do you remember what you was thinking when we signed him?
I couldn't wait. I remember leaving Wembley when we played against Turkey. I mean, leaving Sunderland, I think it was. We played England, and I went to his family table before I left the ground. And his dad and his mum and that were sitting there, and I said to him, "Make sure he comes to Man United." And they laughed. They probably already knew the deal was done, but it was like, what a crazy talent. That's probably the best one.
Berbatov.
Berbatov was a good one as well, man. They all took long. They took long. Berbatov took ages. Did Michael Carrick take long as well?
I don't remember that being a bit of an ordeal, really. No, I think that was quite early in pre-season. That one was done.
Who was the third one then?
Fellaini.
Oh yeah. There was loads of irons in the fire for that one as well. But
Wait. Let's hold it there. When Marouane Fellaini was coming, obviously he's not the superstar big name that we're used to. What were you thinking?
I was thinking, is he going to fit in our style of football? That's the first thing I thought. I don't know if this is going to fit. I don't know if this is the right fit. He was such a hard player to play against for Everton, but he's not going to be a number 10 for Man United. Fellaini ain't a number 10 for Man United. And then when he came, David Moyes was showing him how to get the ball and doing sessions in terms of getting the ball off the back four. So that obviously his style of play changed. Fellaini was he's always a hard player to play against, but I just don't think Man United played the style of football that was going to suit him. And I thought that from the beginning, to be honest with you. Great pro, really good lad as well he was. But was he a Man United fit? For me, I would never have said that, no.
So when you're not a Man United fit, how does that... How do you then try to fit in the team? I mean, obviously, I'm sure the guys will be as nice as possible, but you said it yourself when you came in the beginning of your when you were first at United. Roy Keane going, pass the ball forward, whilst you've only passed it to Gary Neville.
I think
things are you saying?
The biggest thing, Joel, is that when you get into the club, you want to hit the ground running. You want to go in your foot. Like for instance, Mudryk at Chelsea, he's on a 20-minute cameo. He's coming. That doesn't matter. That takes away. He could have had 3 horrendous, appalling training sessions prior to that. But then that first 20 minutes cameo he has absolutely extinguishes all of those moments he's had in training. And people go, actually, we've got a player. So it's all proof within the 90 minutes. You can train as well or as bad as you want, right? But you get in the 90 minutes and you produce the goods. The players then turn and start loving you and respecting you. And I think that's what every player, when they walk into a football club, want. They want respect of their teammates, of their peers. They want the players to think, you know what, this guy's ready. He's right for us. He improves us. We want him when we're going out to war. So I think Trossard goes in straight away against Man United, comes on, impacts the game. It makes the transition to the new club so much easier when you have a positive start. Very difficult if you don't have a positive start.
I wanted to ask, I know you've told us this story millions of times, but Patrice Evra, Vidic, when did they start showing you that they were a fit for Manchester United? Because you've openly said many times when they first came into the club, it's just like, I don't know about these guys. You know, I don't. What's the manager thinking?
We've got Pat coming on soon, and we can speak about this, because I swear to you, when we first saw him, I remember me and Wayne Rooney and even other players going, "Who the hell are these guys we've just signed? They're rubbish. They're not ready. They're not up to it." And you say it openly. You don't say it to them because you don't want to kill them, but they would have known the way we were looking at them. Just say, "Wow," and they'd have been thinking, "Right, I'm inferior. I'm way off it." But testament to those two guys, they worked hard. They were intelligent enough to adapt their game to be able to adapt to the Premier League and to Man United, and they became household names. And that's through sheer hard work, determination, and character, and obviously ability sprinkled in there somewhere. But as I said to you, just because you do have a bad start at a football club, it doesn't mean you're finished. Patrice Evra had one of the worst debuts I've seen in my life at Man City away. Not an easy place to go, by the way. But the manager brought him off and said, "Sit right down and watch what it's like to play in a derby for Man United after 45 minutes." You know what I mean? So he looked like a ghost at half-time. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. It was crazy. But this can happen, but you have to show character, man. And I think there's all these signings that are happening. And you've got an experienced player like Jorginho going from Chelsea to Arsenal, now your team. Don't matter how experienced you are, you still need to start well. You still need to go in there and produce, and you still need to get the respect of your teammates. No matter what you've done in your past life as a football player, what you've won, you've still got to go into a new dressing room who are harsh. They're a harsh group of men. They're a harsh bunch who will judge you, not on the past, but they'll give you a bit of grace, but it's what you do here and now.
It's funny. Steve, I'm going to let you carry
Fernandez,
on.
by the way. Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah, no, we're gonna talk about Chelsea soon. We've got Matisse coming on, who is gonna talk to us about Chelsea shortly. Yeah, but I was just gonna say there's a few people in the comments. I want to give a massive shout out to Lukman Razak, Tom G, Anikata Nakata. We've got people saying here, "I can't believe we've been online for more than 4 minutes and Joe hasn't mentioned Arsenal twice. Why is he mentioning Man United non-stop?" Well, it's because I'm talking to Rio, guys. So, you know, whatever, mate. I'm not affected by your banter. Right, Steve, I'll let you carry on with a couple questions.
Yeah, I'm going in a minute, so we can talk about United until I go.
Cool.
Well, I got some questions, right? Because I want to know why Jorginho, and I'm going to get quotes here. I'll come in with receipts. But give us a second while I get my quotes up. Because Paul Merson says, "Don't know why United have got Sabitzer, because he doesn't play at Bayern. Well, for starters, he does. He's not first choice, but look who he's behind. You know, you're talking Muller, Goretzka, Musiala, Kimmich. You're talking some serious footballers that he has admittedly behind. But he's come out and said for Jorginho, who isn't exactly playing week in, week out at Chelsea, he's outstanding. You're buying experience. He's won big trophies. He's a proper holding midfielder. No, he's not, for starters. He's a top signing, and he'll bring experience and calmness." What's the difference in what Manchester United have signed as good a replacement for an injured player for a few months as we could have possibly got our hands on? I'm well happy with Sabitzer.
Yeah,
I am absolutely delighted. If I was going to say that I can go and get a replacement, short-term replacement, drop of a hat for Eriksen, Sabitzer is a player that you would have gone, "Oh, if I can get him, I'd take him." I watched a hell of a lot of this player when he was at Leipzig in Champions League. He played with Nkunku and the guys there. He was sensational, integral to everything they'd done there. Yes, he's gone to Bayern Munich and hasn't tore it up there or become a regular. But like you say, the players he's behind, they're big household names, so he's got to do something to get in there. But he will be, I think, a really good signing. Really experienced player. Played in the big games. He played for in the Champions League on a regular basis. He knows his way around the football pitch. He'll be a good sign. That just stinks for me. Paul Merson hasn't seen him play. Wouldn't know who he is. Wouldn't know if he's left or right footed, because you can't say that he's a bad signing, because this guy knows how to play football. And you don't get signed by Bayern Munich if you're a chump. And he's there, and he's a really, really, really good footballer. Really, and for what Man United need in this short window that they had to go and get a player, they couldn't have done any better, I don't think. So well done, Man United recruitment team.
I think we went and spoke to him about Gravenberg because he was an obvious one. Obviously, the links with Ten Hag previously. And we've gone, yeah, you're not having him, but you can have him if you want.
100%.
I mean, they've just picked up Daley Blind. They've just picked up Cancelo. There's talk of them picking up Bernardo Silva. Last I saw, I don't know if that's recently changed. I mean, there's been a lot more movement today than I expected. We've seen Daley Blind. Obviously, he's gone earlier in the window. We've seen Memphis Depay. He's gone from Barcelona to Atletico. You know, there's been a lot of movement kicking around, hasn't there? Chelsea have kickstart all this off, by the way.
If Man City knew City have lost Cancelo, and if they let Bernardo Silva go as well, I would go now to say that they're definitely winning the league. Bernardo Silva is one of my favourite players at City, and it just shows you with Pep, if he thinks that you don't want to be there or you're not putting out what he needs, you are off. There's no two ways about it. He is ruthless. I done an interview. I'm going to show. We should put it up on the 5 page when I don't for with him about a year ago at a training ground and talking about how he keeps players motivated. He says, "Listen, if you're not motivated, you got to go." He shows signs that you've got to turn over players, and that's what he seems to be doing. He's just ruthless with it. And I would never have suggested that Cancelo is probably one of the most. He provides the most in terms of attack, along with probably Trent. From the fullback area, that he would let him go. But he's gone now in this window immediately, and then Bernardo Silva could as well. But like you say, I think that you're right. What Chelsea are doing over there in terms of transfers, they're trying to sign Enzo Fernandez for a record-breaking British record fee, and the other players that they've brought in during this window, it's almost like they're trying to solve every single problem they've got in this one window. It is absolutely remarkable.
What's the script going to be at Chelsea then in training, do you think? Because now they've got about 50 first-team players. What are you doing if you're a player that was signed more than 3 days ago there? Because surely you're on the exit ramp.
You know what? I just the biggest problem is going to be, right, is when the squads get read out for Europe. Who's in that squad and who's not? There's going to be big players voting for big money who are going to be sitting there on European nights going, I can't even get stripped. I'm not even on list. It's amazing, but I think there's going to be some reshuffling in that club during not this window maybe, but the following window. Listen, they've got a lot of injuries as well, so they brought in a lot of players, but it's not like there's going to be a lot of players right at this moment. They're on the training field. Probably half of them are still in the treatment room. So it's going to be in a couple of months when everyone's fit. Graham Potter. I think Graham Potter is the one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on from now to the end of the season. And for the reason of how he handles all of these big money signings, egos, characters within that changing room and training ground when people aren't playing. He's never been here, never had to do it. And this is one of the questions definitely that he's needing to answer. Can he handle that? And that's a big moment for him, I think.
There's one that I know Steve wanted to touch on. I'll let you go on this. Go on, Steve. It's a big one. One of his favourite players might be leaving. Go on. Inter Milan, Harry Maguire.
Oh, they've rubbished it. It's not happening. Today's not our lucky day, gents.
I could just say lucky
day.
Yeah,
hang on. I'll find it because I think Romano just mentioned it. Why are you laughing? It says, despite links with Inter, Harry Maguire will not leave United. No chance. Never been a concrete option in January. Maguire is staying at Manchester United until at least the end of the season.
I think that's smart. Because you've got a lot of Europa League games coming up.
You need your bodies. You see Eriksen got injured. You need bodies, mate.
Yeah. I think it's smart. I mean, yeah, for me, I don't think he's a bad player as per se. I know Steve's not that much of a fan, but I reckon if he finds the right club like a Villa or not the kind of Everton that we're seeing now, a decent Everton, I think that's a player that can fit in there, or maybe a Wolves. I reckon he's still got a career in general, so you can get decent money from him. I reckon not 80 mil, but you can get some change.
I believe Crystal Palace tried to give us 25 mil for Wan-Bissaka as well, or didn't even want to pay 25 million for Wan-Bissaka, which takes a mick, to be honest, when we give you 50 for him in the first place. Made him a better player, actually.
60.
50, calm down.
Is he really a better player, though? Is he really?
Yeah, he's improved.
He's definitely a better player than when he first came, 100%.
I'm asking the questions, mate. Some people would say differently, but it's your team, innit? Your players. What else are we looking at? Rio, what's your thoughts on Arsenal getting Jorginho?
I think it's a good sign. I think it's shrewd. I've been known to criticise Jorginho, and I think even just to clarify that, I was criticising him. I think because of the way Chelsea played at the beginning when he was there, didn't help him. There was too many big spaces around him. He was being exposed physically for a lack of pace and dynamism and the ability to get close to people. The way they then changed the way they played, and they made the pitch a little bit more tighter and more condensed when they had the ball, when they had without the ball, got bodies nearer him to be able to help him and condense those spaces. It then made him look a better player, and his deficiencies were not exposed at that point. Because he did, for whatever you think of him, on the ball, he's a fine passer of the ball. Especially cutting through the lines. He keeps it ticking. We saw that with Italy as well in the Euros as well. So he's fine with a technician on the ball. And I think he'll be a difference to Partey. But he'll be someone who can come in there, I think, and if need be, can fill that gap. And he'll do it with the experience that he's got. I think it'll be a plus point for them in that sense.
I hope you're right.
I don't see
Rio,
him being a starter at Arsenal, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, no, and I hope you're right. I do see a lot of positives in being there, but at the same time, I wasn't too keen on it when I first heard. I think it took me a few hours for it to settle in because I had my heart set on Caicedo, but it looks like we're not going to get him either. I'm all right with it, Rio, if it's a stopgap to us getting Declan Rice in the summer.
I think you might get Caicedo still.
I don't think so. That's not what I'm
hearing.
I
don't think Jorginho's long term. I think El Nene looks like El Nene's out for the season. I think that's why he's been brought in. I don't think they buy Jorginho if El Nene's fit. They'd have gone for a big one. I think he's a stopgap for now, and in the summer they'll go and get the big one if they don't get Caicedo now.
I mean, from the Arsenal fans, I know there's a little bit of concern. All of this. Oh, you guys are just Chelsea's retirement home. From what you've seen of him, it's fair to say that, and this is me asking you because I want reassurance. Is it fair to say that you think he's a professional that's going to come and give it his all and not come and just retire basically?
Everything I hear about him as a pro has been positive. Nothing but positive in the change room. He's a leader. He talks. He cajoles. He demands of players. A good trainer. I've never heard anything bad about him in that sense, Jorginho. So I think it'll be a plus. Listen, he's going to a club that is top of the league. He can't go in there and be a bad apple. He's going to go in there. I bet he can't wait to leave Chelsea to go to Arsenal and win a Premier League, because he's probably going to do that now. But I mean, Arsenal fans, I've seen a few of you guys online, and you guys are always quite vocal with the way you are. But you're picking up a lot of second best in terms of when you're going in terms of what you want. You're not getting what you want on the menu, are you? You're having to go down to the next stage of the menu and looking at the sub-zero part of the menu. Not that Trossard ain't a great player or Jorginho ain't a good player, but you wanted Mudryk, you wanted Caicedo, and you've had to take second best or the next option down. So we'll see how that pans out for you guys. Look, guys, I've got to shoot. I'm going to come on. I know you've got loads of guys coming on. But it's been great coming on there, man. I love it. I love this transfer window. We'll see what happens later on. We might have to do a Rio Reacts later on if something crazy happens.
Come on. Appreciate it, Rio. I want to give a massive shout out to A11 giving us some money over here. Love the content, boys. Thoughts on where United will finish now that Sancho and Martial are back. Also, Chelsea will kick on after getting Enzo. Steve, I'll let you answer this one, and then I'll bring in our next guest before David Ornstein comes on to give us.
I'm going to just roll it back a bit on the Jorginho thing, because I think you might want Caicedo. But Jorginho slots into the team with less fuss. I think Caicedo comes in and he takes one of the three places that you've got three good players in at the moment. And I think 4-3 doesn't always go if everyone's on the same sort of level. I think if Jorginho comes in and he knows he's going to be the rotational option, I think he's easier and doesn't upset the apple cart as much as bringing in a 50-60 million pound signing who's going to expect to start week in, week out and have an attitude if he doesn't. So I think there's a time and a place for adding quality to the squad, absolutely. But I also think you have to have a hierarchy everyone accepts as well. You can't have, if you play a one-striker system, you can't have two Erling Haalands in the team because one of them's going to spit the teddy out. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes having someone like a Jorginho who probably would be happier to be more rotational than I think a 60, 70 million pound signing in Caicedo would be is probably a good thing, I reckon.
Probably more than 60, 70, to be honest with you, the way Brighton are moving. But at the same time, would he not want to be happy to give himself a time to kind of like bed in and settle in for the second part of the season? Because for me, I'm thinking more long-term, Steve, is what I'm saying. Like, if we get him in the summer, we get Rice in the summer, or both, I'm happy. I just don't want us to go through this whole thing where we're trying to get our number one options, but we're only getting second best, third best. You know, like, I think Jorginho is going to come in and do a really good job. I just want to make sure that there's still a long-term plan, which is what Arteta has done really well in the summer by bringing in Jesus and Zinchenko. I don't want us to go back to the old Arsenal, is what I'm saying. Getting David Luiz past it, check, okay. Willian past it. It's not what we want. Do you see what I mean? Stop smiling. It's not what we want. So
no, but I don't agree that he's past it. But I think he's happier to be, probably behind other midfielders. Like, he's not coming in with it. Like, it's not always the player themselves. Sometimes a player's wages or a player's fee demands that they start. And that can upset the apple cart. I think you've got a good balance to the midfield at the moment. And I think that's what's doing you the most service, because I don't think the defense is individually amazing. I don't think the attack's individually amazing. I think you're being propped up by a very good midfield at the moment. And I think that's what's got you doing as well as he's been doing this year. But if you bring in a Caicedo, who's he starting in front of? Xhaka? Xhaka's been, I think, excellent for you. Yeah. So I think he's been excellent. But does he change it too much? Does he change the balance too much? Like, the balance is really good at the moment. He's not going to dislodge Partey. But I think Jorginho comes on and can offer something slightly different, where you can go, let's keep holding the ball a little bit. Yeah. I think that balance is really important. And I think sometimes just having different options like that, players at different stages of their careers, works. I think if you've got 25, 26-year-old striker, 3 of them who all think they could start, oh my God, manager's office is just a rotating door of these 3 complaining about not starting every week.
Steve, I've got to stop you there and bring in Matisse, who is our Chelsea expert, because he's got 5 minutes before Ornstein comes on. So can we bring in Matisse, please? We're actually going to be filming with him outside Stamford Bridge tomorrow. Matisse, you look like you're in, what is that? What's that in the background? Is that a rugby ball or a football ball you got over there?
It's a football. Yeah, Diego Simeone suit businesses has to be handled today. Do you know what I mean? We come in peace, but you know what I mean? It's going to be a strong day, hopefully.
Matisse, thank you very much for coming on. You're doing your thing in the Chelsea community, doing wicked online on YouTube and of course on Twitter as well. We see your stuff all the time. I want to know what's going on over there at Chelsea and why you haven't been hit with financial fair play.
I mean, literally, it's all about the finances, and I think the loophole that we've taken advantage of is going to be closed in the summer, which is why getting this Enzo Fernandez deal is absolutely crucial. Getting it done right now. One, because that loophole is closing for 7 to 8 year contracts. They're not going to allow us to amortize more than 5 years after this transfer window. And of course, that's how we've been able to pay for all of these players and stagnate the costs over, 7, 8 years, as opposed to just paying in one lump sum, and FFP, like you said, would be involved. But also because the competition from Manchester City and Real Madrid, I expect it to be there for Enzo. And I personally, I'm not confident about us getting Enzo Fernandez in the summer if we don't get him right now, because Gundogan's going to be leaving. Bernardo Silva's going to be leaving. At Real Madrid, I've been watching them. They're suffering in midfield. Camavinga's coming as an inverted left back. Tony Kroos is getting older. They need to refresh it, maybe get one more in. So if we don't get him now in these final few hours before the deadline, I'm not sure. But that is why we're able to escape at the moment from people.
So Steve, you got a question, or can I go in with another one?
No, I was just thinking, we were just talking there about keeping players happy. You're talking about some players coming to the end of their sort of like peak powers, the likes of Toni Kroos. I agree with more or less. But you got to think, Modric also, but they've got the likes of Camavinga, they've got the likes of Tchouaméni. Yes, I could see Real Madrid doing this sort of transfer because they invariably do this sort of transfer. But when I look at this midfield at Chelsea at the moment, Gallagher, Zakaria, Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, Kante there still, technically. Where does he fit in?
For me,
what's the pressing need?
There's a transition going on here. So Jorginho, we're seeing it today go to Arsenal. 6 months left on his contract. Out he goes. He was probably not going to be renewed. Kante's contract's running out. That's still not agreed as well this summer. He's had massive injury problems. So there needs to be a replacement or a plan in place for his successor. Gallagher, yesterday, Everton put in a bid. Chelsea were willing to accept it and entertain it, but Gallagher doesn't want to play for Everton. He would prefer to play for a Newcastle or Crystal Palace. So his future is still up in the air if he wants to be in the England squad, if he wants to be playing on a regular basis. When you look at the level of the players that you've listed out, it's not the level that Todd Bowie and this consortium are aspiring to have to get Chelsea back to the top. It's a lot of players, and we saw this in the summer with Klopp. They had a lot of midfielders on their roster. Him and Tuchel named out in their respective clubs, loads of midfielders, but the quality is what you're looking for. Do you actually have the Casemiro? Do you have the Bernardo Silva, the level of midfielder that it takes in this predicament of the Premier League to actually get back to the top? And Enzo Fernandez, with what he's been doing, not only at the World Cup as a young player of the tournament, but also for Benfica, when you look at his statistics and his metrics, he is showing that he's going to be levels above these guys. So 100%, don't get me wrong, this squad is over bloated. I heard Rio saying it just before he left. What Chelsea have loads of players at the moment. How is Potter going to deal with that management wise until the end of the season? It's going to be very, very difficult. But I expect quite a few of those players to be sold, and then there will be space for Enzo. But right now, Chelsea's policy is we're going to buy as much of what we can get right now, while we could take advantage of the loophole. And obviously the fact that Roman demanded that Todd would spend a certain amount of money in the first period of his ownership to guarantee that the club stays at the top in terms of ambition. And then they'll try to make their sales in the summer, and then you're going to see a lot more outgoings.
Happy with that answer, Steve?
I sort of, because I also think that you've got the likes of Ziyech out on loan in the forward line. Havertz, Madueke, Fofana, Ziyech, Sterling, Mudryk, Felix on loan. Hilariously, the likes of Pulisic, technically Aubameyang. Like, yes, you're probably going to see some sales, but it's going to be a fire sale. This is, and I know everyone's just got super well informed about amortization and FFP dealings, but all of these players will be being paid for across the length of their contracts currently. So you can't just say what you spend now gets spread out across the 7, 8 years, 6 years of whatever the contract is that you're going to give them, because you're still paying probably for the likes of Kovacic. You're probably still paying for the likes of, probably not Kante by now, but like the Fofana contract will still be, which was significant. Cucurella's, all of these are still going to be getting paid for, and they're not insignificant transfers. Every single player that didn't come through the academy, if they're in their first contracts, is still being paid for at the club. So it's not like it was like zero going into this window and then you can start adding to it. If you're amortizing these ones, you've amortized them forever. That's the way it gets accounted for. So I don't know enough about the Premier League's FFP, because it seems like it only got invented about a fortnight ago. But I do worry for what sort of sustainable model is this, because we've seen it at United when you've got big players on big contracts and long contracts. As soon as they find themselves out of favor, you're just going to have 22 Winston Bogarts just absolutely stone cold chilling and doing jack shit for it.
But I think it depends on the individual if they're ambitious to kick on, isn't it? Because no player wants to sit there. Potentially, when this Champions League squad gets announced, they're not in it. No player wants to sit behind the bench eating Haribos and drinking Capri Suns and they're not involved. Like, these players like Pulisic, like Ziyech, who could go to PSG, they should have the ambition and the self-drive to say, okay, yes, I'm on good wage, but I would like to actually play. I would like to be playing at the World Cup in America coming up. I want to be playing in Champions League, etc. So I'm expecting, I get what you're saying in terms of right now, the clarity is not there because there's just so many players, 100%. That's not sustainable. You can't have 30 players in a squad. You need to trim that right down. But I definitely expect Chelsea to have a fire sale. And remember, the board, I guess, didn't purchase Pulisic, Ziyech. So maybe being debt free as well, they're going to take a hit and they're not going to ask for the type of valuations that Mourinho would ask for. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
What happens if this doesn't work and you don't get into the European places?
In terms of Champions League, or
I don't think you get in Champions League. I think you might get Europa.
Yeah, Europa, I think anything from Champions League is a drop-off, isn't it? From a revenue standpoint anyway. I just look at it and I say to myself, right, you probably won't get Champions League unless you go and win it, which would be extremely difficult with Graham Potter in charge first time in the tournament. But I'm assuming that these guys have planned for that and they know that we could not make Champions League. And even still, if we don't make it, revenue-wise, they're going to be able to handle themselves. But I do think they expect to make quite a lot of money. And there are sellable assets there where they should be able to make 10, 15, 20 million. It's all going to add up and you're going to get those fees immediately. So when you're talking about spreading out the costs, that's going to obviously be over time. And these players cannot afford to flop. If these players don't make it in a Chelsea shirt, wow, that's a problem, But if we do take those fees and those big lump sums in from, even Lukaku's coming back, let me not even get into that. There's so much going on. But if we do take these sales in the summer, it's going to be, then we should be okay. But it's a close call. We're flirting with the line.
Matisse, I wanted to know, how much say does Graham Potter have with some of these signings? I mean, in my opinion, I bet it's not much. But is he involved? Is he putting them out? What's going on over there?
He's definitely getting a say in terms of he's involved. Like, they're not going to make signings behind his back. You don't give a manager a long-term contract, 60 million, and invest in his staff.
Steve disagrees.
I know, but let me land this plane.
You don't. People definitely do.
But for me, this ownership, they brought in him as a manager, 60 million over 5 years. They've brought in his recruitment staff. They've brought in his assistant manager, his goalkeeping coach. I think the plan is he's not going to be a dictator in terms of I want this, I want that. Maybe more like a Ten Hag, where you're kind of basing your recruitment based on his knowledge in the Dutch league. I don't think that's the case with Potter, but that wasn't the case at Brighton. They surround him with the intelligence, the recruitment team, people that are familiar with how he wants to approach the game, and then we buy those players based on that. And he'll be, I'm sure, on the phone talking to the players as we bring them in, making sure that he wants them, and etc. etc. I highly doubt these players are coming in and he's just like, I don't know who he is. I don't know who that is. I don't care. He's got to be involved. And remember, just before I land this plane, Tuchel was sacked. Tuchel was sacked because he was refusing to kind of collaborate with Todd Boehly with those messages and wanting to communicate on Ronaldo and all these things. So of course Potter is going to be more collaborative and he's going to actually have a say. That's how I see it. Is that
really why he was sacked, or is it because they wanted to bring in their own man though, Matisse?
Yeah, they wanted to bring their own man in that would be collaborative, that would like have these conversations about recruitment, that would work in a team. And Tuchel didn't want to be involved in that. That's why they had a falling out and the relationship kind of broke down.
What's the odds that this recruitment team at Chelsea is just a 14-year-old who's got Fabrizio Romano's tweets on alerts? Because it seems to be that you've signed players someone else has bid for, and they've gone, oh, can we get him?
I like what Arteta cooks, Steve. I'm not going to lie. His taste is very good right now. So why not take something off his plate? If he's eating this, I want to eat. I want to eat. Yeah, listen, Joel. Listen, Mudryk. If you're trying to get Mudryk and your talent idea has been spot on, then why are we not going to get involved and say, do you know what? Let's go for Mudryk too. But also some players like Badiashile from Monaco, no one was going for, and we went for him. Andre Santos under Brazil 20, we got him. No one else was going in for him. So it's a bit of both. It's a mixture. But I think when other teams are recruiting well, you'd be silly not to get involved and try and take some of the pie. So I'm more than happy with that. More than happy.
Are you guys scared that we're coming on a real? Like when it comes to Arsenal, I know it's been a devastating year this year for Chelsea. Are you looking across going, if we don't stop what's going on over there, they could come back as a force? Like seriously?
50%. First of all, you got to close the deal. Do you know what I mean? You got to close the deal in the Premier League. Let's take care of business one step at a time. And then I'm looking at your ownership and I'm saying, are you going to be able to close the big deals, or are you going to kind of crumble at the last hurdle and go for second choices like was being said before I came on? Because there's a lot of money in this league with City, with Newcastle, with Chelsea. If new ownership comes in at Man United, at Liverpool, and if you guys don't close the big deals and you're always going to rely on recruitment, which is fair enough, Liverpool have done that, but then they have only taken one title out of a possible 6 or 7, right? Because they're so heavily reliant on finding the next gem. So if you guys don't pull the wallet out every now and then for a big money transfer like a Nicolas Pepe, then
I'll
you
get
know,
out of here, mate.
listen, it could get sticky. It could get sticky.
So you've shifted off Jorginho to us.
Mm.
In your opinion, is that a good move or bad move? Because obviously it could help us win the league. You know, experience, able to see off games. Yeah, it could come across as a good thing for Arsenal, no?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a like for party, so you are losing something if you bring him into the team in terms of like the base of the pace on transition and the fact that he can sustain challenges and combat. You know, Jorginho is pretty frail, so in combat he's going to lose a lot of times out of 10, and you guys are going to suffer on transition for the lack of pace. But I think you need to get someone. Lokonga, that he's playing out of position, and then he's injured, so you had to bring in somebody. And I do think his character, like Rio was saying, off the pitch, he's always been a professional for Chelsea. He's always this guy is a player that we don't sell him to you out of disrespect. I certainly wouldn't see it that way. Like, he is a very, very accomplished player. He's won the Champions League. He's been on the Ballon d'Or listing. He's won the Euros. And the thing is with Jorginho is, yes, he has physical limitations, but he's a very intelligent footballer. When he's building up play, he's scanning. He's got all of that covered. He's making his triangles. He's taking responsibility. He's taking high pressure penalties. So you're definitely bringing in a good person into the dressing room. And if you're going to use him as a party backup, and then you're going to play him in the Europa League where he's pretty good in Europe, and then Premier League he's pretty inconsistent, that's good. That's good for Arsenal. Now, it's not long term, and I'm sure you would have preferred Caicedo, but as Steve was saying, sometimes 4 doesn't go into 3. I completely agree with that. I think that right now as a short term for the title is more of a headache. If you want Caicedo long term, that's obviously a better move. You can fix that in the summer, go for it. But that's a high price point from Brighton, way overpriced. Right now, you got to focus on closing the league, and you just have to do whatever you have to do to get that done.
First of all, I want to give a massive shout out to people watching. We see the comments. We love it. Ed saying, Joel's eyes are saying, please God, not another Willian. Boy, it's true. You know, we've got people saying, bring on Ornstein. Ornstein is coming. He's a little bit delayed, but we've had here Matisse, who's keeping us well entertained. Oh, gosh, I like you, Matisse, but I really dislike your club. Steve, I want to bring it back to you. Man United, obviously, there's not a lot that you can do this window. Are you happy with the moves that have been made or not made, would I say?
I think if you look at United under the Glazers as a whole, and you look at, imagine being a Chelsea fan. Imagine being a club about the size of Aston Villa or smaller and just absolutely cashing in with Abramovich, who just absolutely loads you with player after player after player after player after player. And as he's signing off, you land this crank that you've got in Todd Boehly, who's just absolutely cashing in to a level that's never been seen. Imagine being a Chelsea fan. Honestly, it must wake up and look in a mirror and go, how's this real? What have Chelsea fans done to deserve this? And then you go, Manchester United, biggest club in the world. We've blown $1.5 billion on debt because some guy from Florida who's been here once decided to buy us 17 years ago. Absolute scandalous. United have been able to get, 2 players in on loan? Cost us about 30 quid. Do you know what I mean?
So basically, it's safe to say you're not happy.
I think Ten Hag has got reinforcements in the areas that he wants. Certainly, probably not to the level of backing that he would want. I mean, every manager in the world wants more, always. That's the game. But I think Sabitzer is a sensible one, and I think Weghorst is a sensible one. When you consider what's available in the loan market, there's not a lot. The board clearly aren't ready or able to sanction off a signing. They just need to get out of here, man. Just need to go.
Matisse, what's your thoughts on Man United during this particular window? Obviously, they've got rid of Ronaldo. Do you reckon they're heading towards the right direction? Do you reckon they're smart with their transfers? On the outside looking in, what do you see?
They're definitely heading in the right direction, but I do feel the lack of financial muscle is a problem for them because they're not able to capitalize. Ten Hag is literally doing everything he can. He's almost exceeding expectations, right? He's overperforming a little bit. The fact that they was even in a title race for a week or whatever it was. They're going to a final of a Carabao Cup They're almost there. FA Cup, they're still in it. They could easily go and get that. There's not many teams you'd say that are competing that you're going to put as favourites. Europa League, they got Barcelona. That's going to be very tough. I think best defence in Europe at the moment, but they're in it. So Ten Hag is improving players. He's rejuvenating players. He's got Rashford on form. And yes, there's others like Sancho and Anthony that have to come, and join the party. But Ten Hag is a proper coach. And you can see that at Ajax, who have just, I think, sacked their manager. And they're dwindling in a very precarious area in Eredivisie.
7 winless games.
Right. And this is a league that everybody said, oh, Ajax, they just win this regardless. No, you need a top manager. You need a coach. And this is what Ten Hag is. But he's working off scraps. So as long as they're not doing this in the summer when the big targets are starting to float around, then they'll be fine. I personally still think they'll make top 4 purely because his team is going on an upward trajectory. You look at the way they started against Brentford, Man City, the errors of playing Eriksen in a double pivot, not tracking Foden runs. He's learned from all these mistakes and they've become defensively a lot more sound. And then as the season's going on, you can see that the resilience is starting to build. They beat Man City. They went to Arsenal and almost took a point. It was a tough game. They managed to get almost something out of it. You can see improvement from United. I think in the attack, it's Rashford or bust at the moment. If Rashford was to get injured, they'd be in some serious trouble because Anthony's not giving it on the right. And Weghorst, I looked at Weghorst as a good kind of plan B coming off the bench, target man, or at least not even a target man because he's a tall guy, but he's not Giroud. He's a bit different. He does press and he does run a bit. But he's a good plan B. But the plan A, who's Martial's injured, plan A should be a bit stronger. But for this season, it'll be fine. Next season, though, Ten Hag needs far more resources to work with. He's exceeding expectations right now.
Thank you very much, Matisse. You've been brilliant. We've got a special Chelsea video that we're doing this week. It's either going to be tomorrow morning or Thursday, but we're going to be at Stamford Bridge, hearing some of your expertise and your thoughts once the transfer window closes. We're going to let you go now, but thank you so much for joining us. You've been absolutely brilliant, and we're so glad that you're going to be doing more on 5. Stay tuned, man. And right now is the time that a lot of us have been waiting for. Yes, as much as we love Matisse, as much as we love Rio, we've got the one, the only, Mr. David Ornstein. How you doing, sir? You good?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself? Hey, Steve, how we doing?
Doing all right.
I just seen you drop a tweet, my mate. What's going on with Chelsea and Enzo?
Yeah, let's get stuck in then. Enzo Fernandez, could this be the deal of deadline day? Because we've spoken to sources in Portugal here at The Athletic, and they have a heightened optimism that an agreement can be reached now for Enzo Fernandez to join Chelsea from Benfica. And Benfica have granted permission for Enzo Fernandez to undergo a medical in Portugal for the event of a deal being struck between the two clubs. We know personal terms are already in place on a long-term contract. So this one feels like it could be about to spring into life with the time ticking before the window shuts.
So what is there? So there's not going to be no repercussion for all of these transfers, David. Like I'm confused. I've never seen such a spending spree. Yes, they've got around this loophole, but please tell me that this might not come back to bite them in the future. Hopefully it will, but will it ever?
Well, hopefully it will for you, but I think Chelsea will be pretty content with the way that they've gone about things because they're handing players these massive contracts, 7.5 years, maybe even more. And the word amortization has become household, hasn't it, recently? Because that means spreading the cost of the transfer fee over a number of years. That means in the financial accounts, it will show a relatively small sum for this year. And then if they are to sell players, such as Jorginho, who's going to Arsenal for a significant sum, given that he only had, 4 months left on his contract, they may do some more business before the window shuts, outgoing in terms of possibly Hakim Ziyech. Conor Gallagher is going to be staying. But all of these things mean it does work out through financial accounting to get around the FFP situation. Now, those rules might be changing in the future, but at the moment, they're in place as they are, and Chelsea appear like they will be complying with it. So I'm sorry to break your heart, but it seems that it will work. Chelsea would have a big job on their hands to balance the squad, the size, the 25-man squad, and it could see some players left out. But these are some clever guys operating, and they think that they're doing it the right way.
I wanted to ask quickly, we've got here a shout out from Nelly Anderson saying, Ornstein, are Arsenal still pushing for Caicedo? Yes or no?
Well, they may push for him in the future, but it won't be in this window, Joel. The race is run on Moises Caicedo, and that's why they've signed Jorginho from Chelsea because they needed to get a central midfielder in before the deadline. Of course, they're not the same type of player. Caicedo was a clear 6, 21 years old, and he would be for the long term. Whereas Jorginho is more of a creator, 31 years old. And he, of course, has got vast experience. Italy international, Euros winner against England at Wembley in summer 2021. It's a 1.5-year long contract with the option to extend by 12 months. So it's a relatively short-term acquisition that does leave the door open for a bigger one in central midfield in the summer. And that's why attention's going to turn to the likes of Declan Rice, maybe Caicedo again. But Brighton were firm in their stance throughout that Caicedo is going nowhere. They rejected 2 offers from Arsenal. They said he's not for sale, and they meant it. They were clear in stating that to Arsenal. And finally, Arsenal accepted that was the case.
Steve, questions?
Who's won the transfer window, Dave?
You guys, you've bossed it. Let's have a think about that.
Because I don't think it's Chelsea. I think Chelsea's an obvious one, but I think I know you're saying that they think they can balance it, they can send it over amortization. I just think this was too much too soon. I don't think
Possibly,
they've let this cut
but I mean, there's not been any major business elsewhere. I'm just racking my brains. Like, you won't like me saying that United reinforced in attack with Weghorst as a slightly more impressive than I think some people had it down for when the name arose. It was very much something Erik ten Hag wanted, a different option, as you and I spoke about on 5. I think Arsenal will be pleased with, the acquisition of Trossard and Jorginho, although they weren't their 2 preferences. They come out of the window slightly stronger, I would say, for this run-in as they challenge for the Premier League title and the Europa League. I mean, that answer, Steve, could be different by the close of play tonight, depending on who gets what. Everton are still pushing. Tottenham, obviously, with Pedro Porro coming in, is a really good acquisition. Early doors, Cody Gakpo to Liverpool. He's a really good player. Let's see how he gets on, because it's tough times there at the moment. Southampton are still really active now. Of course, is it Semenyo coming in from Rennes? So I can't give you a clear answer. I can't. I don't know.
How close are United to the Sabitzer deal?
Sabitzer is interesting because that's obviously one that's come up as an option for United today, and some talks have clearly taken place. Reports suggesting he would be keen on it. There's no agreement yet, and time is ticking on that one. I think it would be very expensive to do for 4 or 5 months, and that's going to require the ownership approving, of course, because Manchester United have a really limited budget. That's why we saw such a low-cost loan in the case of Wout Weghorst. This would presumably be more expensive. Permanent signings are off the agenda with this sale process or investment process ongoing. Nobody's left United of note. They haven't got the numbers to sanction departures that might raise money. And now Christian Eriksen's got injured. It's a real blow that's forced them to explore the market. But at this stage, there's no guarantee that's going to happen before 11 p.m.
I asked earlier on, wait, Steve, I know you've got to go right now. So I'll let you go on to your other live. Thank you very much. I've got a couple more questions
Dave,
for Mr. Ornstein, giving us the exclusives here on 5 today. But yeah, basically, if you guys haven't seen, by the way, David Ornstein has got a show on 5 called The 5 Insider. It's a fantastic show. We're getting back onto it tomorrow. In fact, we've actually got a special filming with you, David, where you give us the insight on how deals are done, what happens on deadline day, how you're involved in it. And we all know that you're a big name and you're fantastic at your job. But I don't think sometimes people understand the work behind it. So I feel like your audience and our audience would absolutely love to understand a little bit more about you. So yeah, we're definitely doing that once the deadline day is over. But I just wanted to ask a weird one. This is a selfish one for me. Balogun at Reims. Is he coming back at the end of the season? And if so, what's happening with him at Arsenal? Because he's doing very well over there. Is he going to be happy to stay, fight? What's going on?
Well, I'll just go back to one of our previous subjects.
Yep.
because there are some reports emerging in Germany now that Sabitzer has arrived at the airport in Munich and Man United are in pole position to sign him. The report from Florian Plettenberg says that Chelsea are still in, but United are now the favourites. So again, that race against time is on, and it looks like United are trying to do it. In terms of Balogun, yeah, I don't think there'll be any. There's clearly no recall now in January, and he'll be spending the rest of the season on loan. He's doing really well, scoring, impressing. I think there's only a couple of years left on his contract, so it's a situation that Arsenal are going to have to look at. But clearly, he looks a top prospect who, for club and also for country, I'm sure, has a great future ahead of him. Arsenal will hope that's with him, but it looks like they'll need to tie him down for longer. I remember there was a big contract story involving him. I was reporting on it myself, but we could be in that situation again, the way he's going. And if Arsenal manage to hold on to him, it looks like they've got someone prolific on their hands for the long term.
I want to ask you what's been happening at Man City. Cancelo, Bernardo Silva, it looks like he might be going as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are these fallouts with the manager? Because we can't say these guys are not quality players. Cancelo's been in the team of the year for the last 2-3 seasons. Last year we held him as one of the best wing backs in the world. All of a sudden, he's it seems as if he's surplus of requirements. And again, Bernardo Silva, who is one of the best midfielders in the world, technically in his position. What's happening over there?
Yeah, well, clearly with Manchester City, Pep Guardiola doesn't want players to stay if they're not happy and if they're not a positive influence in terms of their attitude, the chemistry of the dressing room. And it appears that may have been the case with João Cancelo, because he was playing a lot and we know what a high-level performer he is. But since the World Cup, his game time has been limited, and that seems not to have gone down well with him. Whether he was disruptive or not, I don't know. There are some reports claiming there was a training ground bust-up when he wasn't included in the side to face Arsenal in the FA Cup on Friday. And then over the weekend, we now know that a deal was structured with Barcelona. I think Barcelona might have been interested, but Bayern Munich to bring João Cancelo from Manchester City on loan with a £70 million option to buy. He underwent his medical, signed his contract, and it's now been confirmed. Still a bit of a shock to the system, given they're not extremely well stocked at fullbacks. But, Kyle Walker's still there. Rico Lewis has shone and looks a real star for the now and the future. And on the other side, Nathan Ake has been filling in when necessary. Of course, they've got the boy from Anderlecht who they signed, hasn't played too much. Zinchenko left, so it did leave them somewhat short. Obviously, Mendy no longer available, and Laporte could cover there if necessary. But City haven't gone in for a replacement, and they'll probably look to address that in the summer, presumably. In terms of Bernardo Silva, we always hear stories and reports of him possibly leaving, but again, nothing has happened. Forever discussions about whether he'll sign a new contract or not. And Pep has talked in the past about refreshing his squad, changing faces. City are not afraid to do that, regeneration. And it appears that that's another example of it, however big a shock it is to us that Cancelo's left.
I'm getting notifications here. There's a few people in the comments asking, Ziyech, is the PSG loan happening? Yes or no?
Well, that's interesting. Sorry, I'm gonna have to jump off in a sec because I've got some some work to do. Yeah. But Ziyech, it's possible. It's another one that is being discussed and being worked on. Few complications. Chelsea want the best deal possibly for them. PSG have to be careful on financial fair play, and if it's a loan with an option to buy, or is it just a straight loan? The loan fee, the salary, who covers what portion of it? These situations, Joel, they're not straightforward. They're often not black and white. They're complex, complicated, and take a lot of time to work through. And that is one factor that we don't have on a day like this, time. And so if I was a betting man, I'd say it would get done because Ziyech probably wants it now. And I'm sure he's made that clear to Chelsea. But if the terms aren't right, Chelsea won't do it. And they've showed with Jorginho, they do what deal is best for them. And if it is to their liking, they'll sanction it. If it's not, they won't. So, yeah, I think that's got a good chance of happening, but it's definitely not done yet.
David, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the video that we're going to do tomorrow with you. If you guys haven't seen David's channel, please make sure you click the link in the description or type his name in. You'll see him all over social media. But yeah, you enjoy the rest of Transfer Deadline Day and we'll catch up soon. Joel
Cheers,
Bay
guys.
here representing Level 5. We've had on Rio Ferdinand, Stephen Howson and Matisse, and we will be back soon. Peace.